Good morning. I'm Kathy Doody. I'm a professor at SUNY Buffalo State in the Exceptional Education Department under the School of Ed, and I teach a lot of early childhood courses, almost all at the graduate level. In a few minutes, my colleague and co-presenter Pam is going to introduce herself too, but in the interest of time, we thought we would divide up our slides and conquer. So we're here today to talk to you a little bit about a project that we're involved in, an initiative to develop engaging course materials that are low cost or no cost. In our situation, they were actually no cost. And we created a little bit of some buzz around campus, which is great. And also word about this is kind of spreading. So we're really proud of what we've done, what we've been doing. Thanks. So we'll describe our project to you. So it all started with a couple of social media posts. So some instructors from across the country were interested in collaborating on engaging and innovative course materials revolving around thematic instruction, which we can talk about. Pam's going to talk about that much more in a few minutes. But it really started just with word of mouth. We all kind of started connecting with each other. I was actually invited to the group a little bit later. It started out as all psychology instructors, and then I was the lone educator in the group, but it's really nice because now our collaboration is transdisciplinary and we have a lot of different perspectives. Our framework is different, our credentials, our background is different, but we all meld together really well and collaborate really well. So we really looked at ways that we could create innovative materials both at the undergraduate and the graduate level. So we've never actually all been in the same place physically. As I said, we're all across the country. So we have some instructors in California. Pam and I are obviously out here east. We have a colleague in Philadelphia and all sorts of places in between. So when we were able to actually capture everybody on the same Zoom meeting, we were pretty excited to do so. It's one of our bucket list goals to actually present at the same conference and sit around the same table at some point and have dinner. So that's one of our goals. So what we wanted to do was kind of investigate the benefits of thematic instruction, again, that's low cost or no cost for our students. So we really framed this in two different ways. One way was we wanted to look at the benefits for students. So would this increase their engagement? Would it increase their achievement? Would their grades be higher if they were really motivated to learn and engaged in the content that they were reviewing for their courses? Could we connect what they were learning to real world examples in an authentic and kind of more organic way than reading theory from a textbook? And not that there's anything wrong with reading theory from a textbook. So our modules do include some readings and some hefty readings that are, not watered down in any way. But the way we presented those readings was all in the framework of a thematic instruction. We also wanted to build connections between the content area of our themed coursework and what they were actually learning about their own discipline and their own studies. That was what we investigated in terms of our faculty, of our students. We also investigated what would happen to faculty perceptions of teaching a thematic no-cost module course. And so what we really kind of tried to find in the literature, and the bottom line is there's not a lot of literature. You'll see our citation here from 1999. So this really led us to realize that there needs to be more studies in this area. But our hypothesis is that it would invigorate faculty, that it would re-engage them, that it would spark that enthusiasm again to be involved in something that was innovative and fun, but still rigorous and still worthwhile. So we also thought that not only would it make them feel better about themselves as an instructor, perhaps because they're connecting with their students in a way they haven't already, but they would also give them quite a bit of personal reward and satisfaction. That's our hypothesis, at least, and seems to be holding true so far. So what we wanted to create was obviously opened educational resources, OER, no cost or no cost. And in our situation, everything we created was no cost. So we created some modules. Pam's going to talk much more about those modules in a few minutes, but we created these modules for a variety of reasons. One way obviously was that we wanted our content to be accessible. We wanted it to be engaging. We wanted students to find it fun and relevant. We also really thought so much about social justice, and we talked a lot about equity and parity. And we looked at students from, institutions across the country, small and large, and we really looked at those haves and have-nots. And, you know, those courses that have $180 textbooks can be quite intimidating for a student who's struggling financially. So we wanted to kind of level the playing field by creating modules that were accessible to all students without any fee at all. We also wanted them to be widely disseminated. We wanted them to be available. So our modules are posted on the digital commons, and you can get really great analytics from those digital commons. I was just looking at them this morning. So from July 14th until today, our modules have been downloaded well over 100 times and across 18 countries. And this is just in the period of, you know, a few months. So it's really satisfying for us as faculty to see that what we have created has been so widely used. We also can update these modules as we need to, and we're starting to look at that updating now. Some of our modules are 1 or 2 years old, and we can update these modules really easy, really quickly. And we have a librarian here on our campus who then just posts updates to the digital commons. So it kind of alleviates a lot of the frustration or the hurdles that you see when you're using kind of a more traditional publication route. So as I mentioned, we're using SUNY's Digital Commons, which if you haven't checked it out, you really need to do so. So cool, really interesting. Here's just a brief snapshot from our dashboard, and you can see all of those little round icons indicate places that our modules have been downloaded and used. So definitely heavily used across the United States, but definitely also used across the world, Australia. It's really fun. Like we laugh about going down a rabbit hole because you can just keep digging and digging and digging, and you can just kind of keep drilling down, and you can find, you know, the name of the institution that downloaded your modules and how often they were accessed. So it's been really rewarding for us as faculty to see that this passion project that started just with a couple of people chatting online has really grown into something that is really enriching our field and fortifying the resources that our students and faculty have access to. And we were really excited about doing this in a collaborative way. So as I've said, we went across different disciplines. We certainly went across institutions. Where some private institutions, some public institutions, some very small ones, some very large ones. And we've just found common denominators across the board. So we have determined with some surveys, some pre and post surveys, and surveying faculty, surveying students before they've taken the course, after they've taken the course. We are still collecting data and still going through our survey results, but we really do hope to find that our faculty have found this to be a very diverse and rewarding experience. We've also seen that it provides multiple perspectives for our candidates and our professors as well. The shared workload makes it really nice because we create these resources and then we spread them around for anybody that wants to use them. So it lightens the load a little bit, divide and conquer approach. And we have developed these smaller work groups that really focus in our individual interests. So I'm a special educator. My area of study is autism and disabilities, particularly in early childhood. So I really focused my module development around those interests, which has been really nice. Pam has a very similar set of interests, but with a different framework because she's a psychologist. And so she was able to develop modules that she found to be really enticing. And that was the same for all of the different colleagues within our group. And it's certainly enhanced our scholarly productivity. So we have several manuscripts under review. We've had a book chapter already published. We've had probably double-digit presentations at professional conferences. So for those of us who are building our dossiers, we have a couple of people in our group who are non-tenured still. It's been a really nice way to increase that scholarship in a meaningful way. So a couple of tips in case you're interested in doing this, and we would both highly recommend that you investigate this with some colleagues, kind of spread your net wide and see who may be interested, but discuss what your area of interest is, and how you might want to use these modules or how you might want to create modules. So I teach a class where I use some of these modules. Pam taught a class where she used the entire course was developed around the modules. So you can use a little bit of these, you can use a lot of them. It really can be tailored to whatever works for you as a professional. In terms of collaboration, you want to discuss what goals are important to each of you. Are you looking to maintain your scholarship or increase your scholarship? Are you really focusing on your teaching effectiveness? Are you doing this as service to the profession? Like, what are your professional and personal goals in terms of doing this? And then what are your realistic expectations? So we do a lot of our work over the summer. We don't necessarily set deadlines. Whenever we have downtime, we work on it on whatever capacity we have the ability to within our own bandwidth. So it's been a very low stress, but very highly rewarding collaborative. The members of our group say it's, the best part of their professional lives right now, which is really rewarding to see.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. Just a quick introduction for myself. I'm Pam Schuetze. I am in the Department of Psychology at Buffalo State. I also coordinate our Child Advocacy Studies program. And so I'll be talking about specifically the program that we've developed, the types of modules, the resources that we have as kind of an example of how you can create these OERs using a kind of this collaborative approach. And then I'll talk a little bit about how I use those in my classes as well. So all of our modules are developed around the theme of Sesame Street. That was really kind of the interest that brought us all together. Many of us in the group are developmental psychologists, so we teach child development courses, and Sesame Street has amazing resources for both children and parents that use the science of developmental psychology and educational psychology and education as they create those materials. So that was really the common interest that brought us all together. We were also all very much interested in how could we use these materials to engage students. So many of our students have past histories with Sesame Street, and even if they didn't watch it as a child, they're aware of Sesame Street. So it was just a great way to really, we hoped, engage them in the materials that we wanted to teach. And pretty much everybody in the group has an expertise in early childhood development. Although we have very diverse interests within the field of early childhood development, that is something that we're all very passionate about. So we came together and said, how can we use our various expertise, but our shared interest to create materials to benefit our students. And along the way, we found that there were a lot of faculty benefits as well, although it really, I think, started with what can we do, what can we create for our students. So we decided to create themed modules, as Kathy was talking about, using Sesame Street as our lens. So we teach concepts about child development. How has Sesame Street used those same concepts in their materials? And then we use that to reinforce the concepts in our classes. So why Sesame Street? So for us, it was pretty much a no-brainer. Sesame Street started over 50 years ago. And their mission is about helping children to grow smarter, stronger, and kinder. So it really fit with our faculty expertise and interests. And then the quality of the resources they have is so strong, which for us really just made this an easy decision to make. So what we were really interested in doing was taking these materials that Sesame Street really developed to benefit young children and kind of flipping the script a little bit. How can we use those same materials for adult learners? And so obviously we're using the materials in a little bit of a different way than Sesame Street had originally intended, but it really fits their mission beautifully. In fact, they have an entire division of the Sesame Workshop that is specifically geared towards adult learners, parents, and professionals who work with young children. So that piece of it is already built into the Sesame Workshop. So what we ultimately did was to create materials that really span disciplines, right? As Kathy mentioned, she is in our exceptional education department. We have people in psychology, but we have had interest from people in a number of disciplines that are interested in using these materials in a number of different ways. I mentioned that I coordinate a program called Child Advocacy Studies, and one of the courses we have in that program is Global Child Advocacy, and Sesame Street has Sesame Street programs in countries all across the world, and they modify their programs based on the needs of the children in those countries. So, for example, they have programs in countries that are experiencing a lot of violence, including Israel right now that we're hearing about in the news. They have materials there for children who are experiencing those kinds of things in their daily lives. And so it really fits my global child advocacy class beautifully. So the original goals of our project were really to support each other. We wanted to develop these materials, and we realized very, very quickly that to do it in a collaborative framework was going to make our lives much easier. I don't think we realized at the time how much more fun it would make it. Which is, and when you do this kind of a collaborative approach, if you find other faculty members who share the same passion and expertise, we've become, even though some of us have never met in real life, I would say that we have become friends as well as colleagues. And so it has made doing all of this seem much less like work. So from that perspective, this collaborative approach has been amazing. And one of our original goals was, if we were going to create these resources, we wanted them to be openly available to other instructors, which is why we explored options for how to disseminate that, and ultimately decided on the digital commons as the way to do that. And it's been incredibly effective for meeting that particular goal. We also, as we started working together, realized that we were potentially kind of by the seat of our pants creating this model for how you could develop curriculum that could be used across universities, but also across a number of different types of courses. And that's been really, really powerful. And then finally, as we spent time talking about developing these modules and this coursework, we became really interested in whether or not it was actually having an impact on our students. So I'll talk more about this in just a second, we are actually collecting data to see whether or not these theme courses in fact do enhance student engagement, which was one of our original goals for developing these materials. But also, does it have a positive impact on their learning? It's one thing to have students excited about coming to class, but are they then actually learning the concepts that we want them to learn? So we're in the process of investigating that. So just really, really quickly, I just wanted to mention that we have a number of modules, over 20 now, I think, that all include this information. All of the modules have a suggestion for the types of courses that it might work really well in. We've provided readings about whatever the topic is about that instructors can use. And typically we provide more readings than probably any one instructor would use, but it gives them some options to start with. We also provide links to Sesame Street clips and other related videos that can be used in the classroom or could be assigned as homework, because most of these clips are available free of use on YouTube. So a student would have access to them as long as they have an internet connection. And we've also provided some suggestions for discussion topics, other in-class assignments, homework assignments, as well as other activities that could be done in the classroom to really try to make this as seamless as possible for the instructor. Now, it isn't we don't have every single class laid out step by step, but it is a good starting point for instructors. So they're really not starting from scratch. We have a QR code there that if you're interested in taking a look at the specific modules that we've created on the digital commons, that code will take you right to the digital commons where you can see the modules that we have created. And M is for more modules on the way. We meet monthly, and every month we're talking about what are some new modules that could be created. We've started to make connections with people at Sesame Workshop, which is very, very exciting. And they've been able to kind of tell us what their next theme is for the next year. And so that gives us a little bit of a heads up on what types of modules we might be able to create over the next year as they start to release some of their new materials. And I know this is probably very difficult for you to see, but if you go to that QR code, you'll see it more closely, but this is an example of the type of module that we have. available, and how it's laid out. We've used the same template for all of our modules. So once you've seen one, you kind of know where to find things in all of the modules. So take a look at those if you are interested. And finally, I just wanted to let you know that one of the amazing things about this collaboration is that we have been able to do research in a number of ways and a number of different topics. And the more we talk, the more ideas we come up with for how we can take this collaboration and use it for our scholarship of teaching and learning, as well as for material for the curriculum development piece of it. So we are currently collecting data from faculty across the country, maybe internationally. I'm not sure. I can't speak to that off the top of my head. But anybody that we identify as having used themed courses, we're asking them to complete a brief survey so that we can find out about their adoption strategies, about their own perceptions of teaching and using these materials, as well as their beliefs about how it's impacting their classroom instruction and their perceptions of how it's changing behaviors, both of them themselves and of their students in the classroom. We also have a separate survey for students who have been in themed courses, and we have some comparison students as well who have not taken themed courses, asking them about their perceptions of the material. Do they think it's helpful in terms of learning the concept? Are they engaged with the material? Does it make them enjoy the class more? How are they applying that material to their real life? And overall, how is it impacting their enjoyment of the course? And then finally, our most recent project is, as Kathy mentioned earlier, the existing research in this area is sparse and old, with a few exceptions. So we realize that, and based on our conversations with other faculty members who are using these kinds of materials in their courses, we realize there's a real need to know more about the empirical benefits of this kind of curriculum. So we are currently doing a systematic review of the literature that's out there to kind of get us started with the ability to kind of talk about what some of those benefits are, but also any disadvantages that there might be as well. So thank you very much for your attention. And I guess with that, we're happy to answer any questions if we have any time that is still available.
Well, you started a few minutes late, so I let you kind of run. But the next presenters are in the room.
Okay.
And I'm kind of getting the feeling that you may be collaborators in some fashion. So
we are collaborators in a number of ways, but yes.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I don't see any questions in the chat, but I would like to thank you for a very informative session.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your attention. We loved having a chance to chat with you.